only problem was that the defense crumbled with the same amount allowed. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Miami Total Football Radio, a.k.a. Miami Total Football Radio, an Inter-Miami focused podcast providing you all the latest news, updates, analysis, inside information, general punditry, and much, much more. This is the first of 2 episodes this week, given that Inter-Miami has 2 games on the agenda. Of course, we will dive into the first of those 2 games, which is on Wednesday night against the San Jose Earthquakes, as well as recap this past weekend's thrilling, wild, emotional roller coaster of a 4-4 draw against FC Cincinnati. My name is Franco Panizo. I am one of your usual co-hosts. I'm one of 2 on this pod today, and joining me back in the fray, back in the fold, is Island Jose, a.k.a. Cinco, a.k.a. Jose Armando. Jose, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Excited to be back. I'm sorry, everybody. Andrea is not here.
She's the star of the show now.
It's the star, but I'm not to blame, just so that I don't get messages after the pod is released. No, I'm not to blame, but she will be back later this week, I'm sure.
Well, that's more than fine, Jose, because we can have a very deep dive, just you and I, into this most recent game. There was a lot that happened. 8 goals in the match. A back and forth affair. Andrea, I know you weren't at the game for this one, but Andrea and I and Michelle Kaufman, our friend of the Miami Herald, we were all sitting there and we had to rewrite our stories multiple times because the game just kept going back and forth and the narrative kept changing. So we will dive into all of that, including what exactly happened to that defense. What exactly happened to Inter Miami to concede 4 times and have to they have to salvage a point from this game. So we will do that. Of course, we will have our Q&A session at the very end, as well as give our final thoughts. And we also have a question from the last pod that will carry over just for you, Jose. So be ready for that. Well, enough for the pleasantries. Let's get to it. Okay, Jose. So Inter Miami had a very important 6-pointer, as we informally call it, at home at Drive Pink Stadium on Saturday night against FC Cincinnati. And Inter Miami took 3 separate leads in this game thanks to a historic franchise first half hat trick from Gonzalo Higuain. But that was not enough to prevent FC Cincinnati from taking the lead late on off of a Brandon Vasquez brace, goals in the 81st and 86th minutes. That put Inter Miami in a 4-3 hole and in stoppage time with practically the very last kick of the game. Unlikely hero Christopher McVeigh comes up with a left-footed blast off the crossbar into the back of the net. Inter Miami salvages a point after squandering multiple leads. It was a draw that felt like a loss for the team, just judging by the somber mood in the locker room, obviously by the post-game remarks from both Phil Neville and Gonzalo Higuain. We will dive into that in just a bit, but all of that considered, your biggest analysis point or your biggest takeaway from this wild draw at Drive Pink Stadium?
Well, it was interesting because, early on you get so many goals, it's exciting, but then, as goals continue to pile up, then you start thinking, are these guys are going to play defense at any point in this game, or is this just the way it's going to be? I think we should be used to that in MLS though, because that's the reality of the league. Top teams are very offensive minded. And sometimes they forget a little bit about playing defense. It's unfortunate for Inter Miami because, Gonzalo Higuain scores 3 goals in the first half. That should be enough for you to win a game at home. That was not the case, unfortunately, and it was not a good night defensively for Inter Miami. I guess that would be my takeaway that right there. It's something that going back into, the last 3 games, 8 goals have been allowed by this Inter Miami defense. Um, and to me, especially at home, that that's not a good stat. I mean, that's something that's not going to help you win games, and especially in that position they are right now, fighting to get at least the final spot into the playoffs. You need to be better defensively, especially at home, to win games. Forget about away from home, because it's been a struggle all year long. But if you want to make it to the playoffs, you need to win at home.
And obviously, Inter Miami wasted an opportunity to do that here because a lot of the other results in the Eastern Conference went Inter Miami's way. Something Phil Neville noted after the game. That aside, Inter Miami remains in 11th place in the Eastern Conference with the draw, while Cincinnati remains in 7th in the standings. So Inter Miami, nothing really changed for them there except for the fact that they just missed an opportunity to jump up in the standings. They remain 3 points behind Cincinnati for that final playoff spot. I mean, obviously the biggest analysis point, I think, is the defense. Obviously, I think it has been probably the strength of this team up until this point. I would even say historically in Inter Miami's brief existence. And that's obviously maybe not saying a whole lot, or maybe that might sound odd to some people, but the defense has played better than the attack. Clearly, you just look at the attacking numbers before this game, and Inter Miami was the second worst attack in the league. So up until this point, I'm not saying the defense has been flawless by any stretch of the imagination, and obviously, if the defense is not stellar and that's your strength, well, that depicts why you're in 11th place. But I did think the defense was the strongest part of this team up until this game. When this game, Inter Miami's attack finally gets going and is clicking on all cylinders, well, then the defense has an absolute nightmare at the back. So obviously, let's dive into what happened there. What went wrong for Inter Miami in this game? Jose, after the match, Phil Neville chalked it up to lapses in concentration, individual mistakes. He doubled down on that stance on Monday today when we went to training before the team took off for California, for San Jose, for Wednesday's matchup. So, for you, what do you think was the issue for Inter Miami, the overarching issue? Because I don't think any defender saved himself from the poor showing that we saw on Saturday night. Not DeAndre Yedlin, not Christopher McVey, not Damian Lowe, not Ryan Saylor. None of the 4 players that made up Inter Miami's backline had a good game. None of them could be saved from criticism in this one. So for you, what's the overarching reason the team struggled so badly on the defensive side on Saturday?
Well, I thought they were lacking energy defensively, because they were spending so much energy moving forward, and they had the intensity, and they knew what they wanted to do offensively, but it seems like they forgot how to, after you expose yourself moving up constantly, you need to have a plan defensively, because obviously Cincinnati, they have talent. I mean, if you look at Acosta, Brenner, those are good players. I mean, those are good players that if you give them enough room, they are going to hurt you, and that's exactly what happened. So I thought the problem was, as they moved forward, they didn't have the same intensity defensively. And listen, maybe it's very easy for me to say it from here. It's really hard to do. Playing conditions, it was so warm. Saturday was typical summer here in South Florida, so maybe it's hard to run up and down the field, but that was just the case. They had a lot of intensity to attack, but not so much when it came to defense, and they were not organized, and several times they were caught out of position. They tried to move. At least this is what I saw. I was not on the stadium, so maybe you'll correct me if I'm wrong. But it did seem like when they were attacking, they were playing with 3 in the back. McVey, Saylor, and Lowe stayed back. Yetlin and was it Mota that moved up? No, Taylor moving back and then moved up. They were aggressive offensively, but when it came to defense, they were with 4 in the back. So I don't know if that that mixed up right there is something that the players need to work a little bit more on. Maybe that's the case. Overall, my thought was, especially in the first half, I thought they were not as energetic defending as they were attacking.
So for me, the overarching thing for me here is that the team is imbalanced. The team lacks balance, right? And I think this game just served as a reminder for that, because when Inter Miami has been or attempted to be defensively sound and been successful at it, they have tended to struggle in the attack. This time, they pushed numbers forward, they opened themselves up a bit, and they got what they were looking for in terms of goals, because this team was lacking goals. Again, they were second worst in the league heading into this match. They get 4 goals. But in doing so, and in pushing numbers forward, they left themselves exposed at the back, and they couldn't, as a team, do enough there to avoid giving up 4 goals. So this team is very, very imbalanced. They can't find the right, and Phil Neville can't find the right combination for getting attacking success while also having some good defensive play. It's either one or the other with this team up until this point of the season, largely speaking. Now, you're right in that they came out with a back four. But when they had the ball, DeAndre Yedlin moved up very high up the field. He took up very wide and high positions. Clearly, Phil Neville was looking to push numbers into the attack. He was looking for a solution to the attacking woes that have plagued the team for much of the year. And it helped Inter Miami to be on the front foot for much of the game. It helped Inter Miami to create chances, to score goals, to be threatening. But that also left in holes and spaces in behind. And if you're going to play a high line like Inter Miami did in this game, and they try to be on the front foot, they try to dictate the tempo, they try to be the protagonist, well, then you're going to have to win those individual battles that are inevitable on the counterattack. And Inter Miami did not do that in this game. Look at the first 2 goals, especially the second goal, which starts in FC Cincinnati's defensive third, Inter Miami's attacking third. The ball comes out, and it's a 2-on-2 or a 2-on-3. And I mean, hey, credit to Luciano Acosta, because he hits a heck of a through ball with the outside part of his right foot to find a streaking Brenner. But Damian Lowe didn't do a good enough job at closing down Acosta. Again, credit to Acosta for playing a heck of a ball. And Ryan Saylor did a very poor job of tracking Brenner on that run. And Brenner, of course, with a clinical finish past Drake Callender. So the team is what it is, and it's something I think I mentioned, I wouldn't say a pot ago, but a few shows ago, in that clearly when they were being defensive-minded, it wasn't good enough. And I thought, and I said, look, they're going to have to open up. They're going to have to take more chances, take more risks in the attack to give themselves a chance or better chance to win games. Because how they were playing was not only ugly and boring, it wasn't proving effective enough, consistently enough. This might be how we see Inter Miami, or this, maybe not. I think Phil Neville might be reconsidering, a lot of things after this game. But I did say a few shows ago that I do think that this might be the approach Inter Miami has to take, where they might have to just try to outgun their opponents, where they have to just push numbers into the attack, try to score more goals than the other team. You're probably going to give some up in doing so, because the team just doesn't have that balance. And you have to live with those results. Because clearly being defensive-minded has not worked for them for much of the year. At least consistently enough to be where they want to be. So that's what I saw from Inter Miami in this one.
Yeah.
And something else to touch on here is that Phil Neville... And look, it was refreshing to see. And I cannot criticize... And I will not criticize him for it, because it's something I've asked, and I think you have as well, is that we've wanted to see a more attack-minded Inter Miami. An Inter Miami team that... doesn't sit back to protect its lead. This time, Inter Miami, when it was up 3-2 at halftime, and it came out in the second half, it was pushing numbers still forward. It was looking for another goal to sentence the game. It was trying to make it 4-2 and end the game that way. It wasn't, thrown back in a shell. It wasn't parking the bus. No estaban ratoneando, as we've said before. So I like that Inter Miami adopted this approach. I like that Phil Neville took that approach. We can talk about the substitutions that he made, and maybe there were some mistakes. But I like that they tried to play. I like that they tried to look for goals. I don't know how you feel about that, but the floor is yours.
Yeah, I thought, it's at some point, Inter Miami needed to be aggressive. And actually this is something that I think we talked about towards the end of the regular season last year, where, situation in which they needed to win games. They needed to win games desperately. And we saw an Inter Miami team that was defensive minded, even when they needed to win. So I do believe this is the right way to go. I think they need to be an offensive minded team. They need to, because they need to win games.
Right.
And but I think they can be better though. I think they can be.
Oh,
better.
absolutely,
And they should
absolutely.
Be better, defensively. I think there should be a balance there in between. Okay, I'm gonna be offensive minded, but I need to have some sort of responsibility as well, because I don't think they can be successful allowing 2 or 3 goals every single game. Because yes, Higuain had a very good first half, but I don't know if you're gonna have a fit Higuain for the rest of the regular season. We already saw what happened with Campana. I don't think that that situation is going to be very helpful for Inter Miami. But then again, I just like you said, I cannot criticize Phil for trying to score more goals, because they need to do that.
Yeah. Now, we'll dive into just some individual performances here really quickly, because again, no one on that back line covered themselves in glory in this one. DeAndre Yedlin, I thought there were moments where he worked his tail off and he broke up some attacking plays from FC Cincinnati that looked threatening, but está en la foto, he's in the frame, he's in the shot, in 3 of the goals given up. So I didn't think he had a particularly good game. Damian Lowe, I think out of the 4, I would say he was probably the best of the 4, and that's just because he committed the least amount of errors. But even then, he was still involved in at least 2 of the goals from watching the game back. The second goal that I mentioned before, where he doesn't, I know he wasn't trying to get beat for pace by Acosta, but he allows Acosta to hit that pass. Now again, it's a sublime pass, a sublime through ball, but Damian Lowe could have done better there. He also, on the third goal, over anticipates or misreads the play. There's a, I can't remember who it was at the top of the 18, but there's an open man there, and rather than staying in his central position to cut off the low cross, he reads it as like, okay, this ball from Barreal is going to get cut back to the player at the top of the 18, and he moves himself out of the central position, and that allows that ball to come into Brandon Vasquez, and Brandon Vasquez pushes it home from, I think, just about the 6-yard box. So Damian Lowe didn't have a great game. Maybe not as bad as the other ones, but didn't have a great game. Ryan Saylor probably had his worst outing in an Inter Miami jersey in his rookie season. He had a nightmare. Beaten badly on the second goal. First goal, he's in the frame as well. Third goal, again, Damian Lowe let up, and then Ryan Saylor tried to recover, couldn't. So I don't put too much on Ryan Saylor on the third goal. But then on the fourth goal, he and Christopher McVey get split, and Brandon Vasquez finishes far too easily, given that there's 2 center backs next to him side by side. So Christopher McVey also...
Yedlin gets some responsibility in the fourth goal as well, because he's I think in before...
Le ganan las espaldas. They play a pass in behind his back shoulders, I guess you would say it in English, and then that's where the cross comes from. That's where the cross is born, because they get in behind him. Damian Lowe comes out to try to anticipate it. I don't put much blame on Damian Lowe for not getting there in time. But then obviously Christopher McVey and Ryan Saylor, there's 2 defenders there. At least one of you can clear that ball. So again, I want to be fair to the whole players, and Christopher McVey did not have a great game either. He helps atone for some of his mistakes slightly. I'll repeat slightly, because he scored the goal that saved Inter Miami from a defeat, and it was a heck of a strike. Left-footed. He even asked for the ball. He looked like a forward on that play, because he goes into the penalty area, and you can clearly see that he sticks out his right hand, like asking for the ball, demanding for the ball, and then he gets the pass from the debuting Corentin Jean, and then obviously, like I said before, he scores with a left-footed effort after cutting with his right. So
that's a big goal, though. If you think about it in terms of the standings, it's big. It's big. Not because of the point that Miami earns, but because of the 2 points that you
Cincinnati doesn't earn. Right. No, absolutely. So I said, I think he atones for some of his mistakes, but again, defensively speaking, still not a great game from Christopher McVey either. So the 4 players, they could have done better. Collectively, the team could have done better. I think it just goes back to the point that there's an imbalance there that has to be addressed. We've seen a more attack-minded Inter Miami, especially with the introduction of Alejandro Pozuelo. And I've seen Phil Neville now position his team higher up the field, playing a higher line. I have questions as to whether he sticks with that after this game. I think this game, giving up 4 goals, could be the type of game that makes Phil Neville regress back to being a lot more defensive-minded in his approach and in his plan to try to, eke out 1-0 games or 2-1 games, and where he hopes that just the individual talent in the attack can take care of itself. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that that's not the case. I hope that for Inter Miami, they continue to obviously find a better balance, but with the idea to attack. Because I think that's the formula that's going to give them the best chance to succeed. Obviously, this last game, 4-4, is not what you want as a team. It's not what you want as a coach. And you could see, obviously when you tie 4-4, you've taken 3 leads in the game. That's not going to be something any coach is happy about. But I knew it would really ruffle Phil Neville's feathers, because Phil Neville is, we've heard him speak now for a year and a half very closely, and we know how important defending is to him. We know how much value and stock he puts into being tough defensively. He was a defender himself during his accomplished career. So I knew it really, really, really would ruffle his feathers that they gave up 4 goals, and he, he was very open and honest in the press conference, saying how angry he was, how frustrated he was, how players were going to have to take criticism. You could see how visibly bothered he was that they gave up that many goals, and I think that my concern is now that that might lead him to being a bit more defensive-minded, or more defensive-minded than we had seen in recent matches. But we will see. We'll see how he approaches these next 2 road games. What were you going to say there, Jose?
No, that there were some positive signs offensively, and the second goal is a beautiful feed from Pozuelo to Higuain, and that's something that we were hoping for early on in the season. We criticized Higuain, we criticized Phil for the positioning. We always thought Higuain needed to be a player that's constantly inside the box. And so that pass from Pozuelo, that connection right there, I think that's a positive. That's something that, maybe Phil should be thinking of as he moves on, especially because those are 2 experienced players that you're going to have to rely on for the rest of the regular season, especially as long as Campana is not able to play the full 90 minutes. And it's going to seem a little bit, I don't want to be negative about it, but at the same time, they did create a lot of opportunities, but the goals, the first one came from a free kick.
Mm-hmm. A heck of a free kick. He blasted that.
Beautiful.
That was potent, powerful. A heck of a kick from Gonzalo Higuain there, and that came in the... Hold on, I gotta pull it up just so I can give you the reference. The 23rd minute.
Yeah, there's a penalty as well, and the 4th goal is a desperation play basically, in which McVey is inside the box where if you're winning the game, he's nowhere near there. And I'm not taking credit away from that, but I'm just saying that there's still things that you can build on. Even though you allowed 4 goals offensively, you did find a way to score. I still believe that Pozuelo can be an important player for this team, and if he's comfortable enough to connect with his teammates in the way that we expect him to do, then maybe good things will come. There was a goal as well, a Pozuelo goal that was
Disallowed,
taken
yeah.
off, yeah, by the VAR. So those are positive signs for this team. Those are positive signs. So in all the defensive chaos that we saw, I think we can stick with that positive.
There's definitely positives to talk about, and we are going to get to them, including Gonzalo Higuain's overall performance and where he stands right now. But just to end or start to end on the defensive note, do you think this type of game could put, just judging from your seat, do you think this could put or could make Phil Neville be a bit more defensive, minded than he has been in recent games?
I don't think so. Because I think it's a different scenario from what we saw last year. Last year, he didn't have the full control of the squad that he has right now, and so I think that makes me think that it's not going to happen. I think he just needs to find that balance. I think that's the main thing, right? You don't want to be overly defensive minded, because I don't think that's going to work for him in the long run. If you really want to make the playoffs, that's not going to work. And if you just want to have an okay season and you're okay with finishing 11th, 10th, 9th place, then yeah, you can go that way. But I think you need to score goals and you need to be better defensively. And listen, going on the road is a challenge for them. We all know. These next 2 games, I was talking to Andrea after practice this morning. I said these 2 games are very, very important for them. Very, very important for them.
Well, we will dive into those games in a bit. One more thing I want to touch on with regards to the defensive letdowns was the substitutions. Phil Neville, in looking to continue to push for the 4th goal that would have put Cincinnati away earlier in the second half, he makes 4 substitutions. They were all attack-minded substitutions. Refreshing to see, I think, if you're an Inter Miami fan, if you're an Inter Miami observer, or an analyst such as ourselves, because again, it showed a different Phil Neville, a Phil Neville that wasn't playing to defend but looking to attack. That said, do you think he overdid it here? Do you think he went too far with the amount of substitutions that he made? Because these were the 4 substitutions. Leonardo Campana for Gonzalo Higuain. Bryce Duke for Alejandro Pozuelo. Ariel Lassiter for Indiana Vasilev. And Corentin John for Robert Taylor. Do you think Phil Neville overdid it there with his substitutions?
No, I don't think it did. I think if it's okay for him to be offensive minded, although I'm gonna tell you this. I think at that point, if he really wanted to be offensive minded, I would have kept Higuain on the field. It's the 68th minute. I understand completely that he might be tired, but the confidence level at that point that Higuain had after scoring 3 goals in the first half, I'm not taking him off of the field. I'm not going to do that, because I know if there's a free kick again or an opportunity inside the box, he's going to take it and he's going to score. So that's my only problem. I do agree with the fact that, okay, he wanted to give minutes to Campana to try to get him back in rhythm of play.
I don't like that. I don't like that.
No, but
Like,
I mean, if he's ready to compete, if his feet,
Campana's clearly not 100%. You can see that he's playing with a brace or with a wrap around his knee. And look, if Phil Neville
it's
analyzed
20 minutes though. 20 minutes.
but you're looking to win. You're not like I don't think like okay, we need to play this guy a certain amount of minutes just to get him going. Like you're trying to win this game. So
That's why I'm saying that he should have kept them both. Maybe he should have kept them both. You know, if you don't put all the responsibility to score on Campana, like it is when Higuain is not on the field and when he's the only striker, then leave Gonzalo Higuain right next to him and see what happens. If you really want to risk it, right? I mean,
well, that's why I think there's a balance, and I think in this game, I won't say Phil Neville got carried away or he overdid it or went from one extreme to the other. I won't say that, but I do think that the substitutions played a part in Inter Miami falling behind in this game for the first time in the final minutes. Because once we've talked on this pod all season about how the team has lacked football and how different players, when they've been brought in, they give the team football. Now, in the starting lineup, who would you say are the four players? Who are the four players? And I didn't even give the starting lineup. I missed that at the beginning there. So I will give the starting lineup here. I'm going to give the lineup, and then you tell me the four players that have the most football in the starting lineup. This was Inter Miami starting group in a 4-2-3-1. Or excuse me, no, in a 4-3-3. Drake Callender in goal. DeAndre Yedlin at right back, Damian Lowe and Ryan Saylor were the center backs, Christopher McVeigh out on the left. Jean Mota served as the 6, Gregory just ahead of him, and Alejandro Pozuelo further up the field. And then the front three from right to left, Indiana Vassilev, Gonzalo Higuain, and Robert Taylor. So 11 players. Which four do you think have the most football out of the names I just gave you?
well, Higuain, Pozuelo, Taylor, and I don't know. I don't want to mention Basilev, but I mean, I guess he's an offensive-minded player. But in terms of football, I would say Mota, honestly.
Right, Mota, right. That I would agree with you. Those four. I wouldn't say Vasilev has a whole lot of football. He's more of an attacking player, but it doesn't mean he has a whole lot of football to his game. He's more physically, his game's surrounded more on physical and hard work and his work ethic and his ability to defend. And so I would say Higuain, Pozuelo, Taylor, Mota. I agree with you there. 3 of those 4 players came out. And I think that hurt the team. I think they lost some of what they were doing well by taking away those 3 players. Because you can see that, and look, you have to give your credit as well to Cincinnati. Tip your hat to them. El rival también juega. The opponent also plays a part. And they got better. They made substitutions that helped themselves get better. So I won't put it just on Phil Neville's substitutions, but I do think they played a part in Inter Miami losing the control of the game that they had. Because I rewatched the game, and I always rewatch the games, but I was really eagerly looking forward to watching this game again to better analyze, because 8 goals is a lot of goals to try to watch back. Or to try to, analyze it in the moment, fresh in front of your eyeballs live for the first time. So the last 15, 20 minutes of the game, Inter Miami lost control and Cincinnati started to get more of it and started pushing forward a little bit better. Then come the 2 goals. I do think that the substitutions, there's been times where Phil Neville's gotten them right, and those substitutions have made an impact, and they've come in and scored winners or, tying goals, and they've helped make the difference. They've been decisive. In this one, creo que el equipo se resintió. I think the team overall was hurt by the substitutions made. Now, again, I am not criticizing the fact that he was attack-minded, because it's something I've been asking and we've been asking on this pod for Phil Neville to do. But I think the manner in which he pushed the buttons, I think that was wrong. I agree with you that maybe you keep Gonzalo Higuain. Okay, maybe he sees Higuain's tiring. Okay, then I don't take out Pozuelo. I keep Pozuelo in there. And Bryce Duke does have football. So Bryce Duke came in. It's you could say it's a kind of a like for a like, but Pozuelo has much more football than Bryce Duke. I would not have taken out Pozuelo. I would have taken out Pozuelo.
He's a younger player as well, so it's hard for him to, get right into the rhythm of things as soon as he comes in.
Right, and I think that's what happened. I think that the substitutions disrupted the flow and the rhythm that Inter Miami had with the ball. And again, fully noting and fully giving credit to FC Cincinnati for also doing their part. Porque el rival también juega. The opponent also plays a part. So, I do think that was part of it. By the way, one last thing. Phil Neville's post-game comment. If I was a player on Inter Miami, I don't know how I would take that. I don't know if I would take that well. Where he said, man, I wish I could have been out there defending tonight. Like, essentially saying, you guys can't defend. Me in my time, I could have defended. Like, I don't know how you interpreted that, but I thought it was not the best comment. And I know he was frustrated and upset, but I don't know if that delivers the best message to your team. In the
that's not that big a deal for me. I think he's just old school, and he played a different way, and it's frustrating, Franco. I mean, it's really frustrating. It's frustrating. Listen,
wait. When have you heard a coach, Jose? When have you heard a coach? Just say, like, give me an attacking player, Zinedine Zidane or Landon Donovan here in the United States, who's coaching in the lower divisions. When have you heard a coach, a former attacking player, be like, well, man, I wish that chance would have fell to me in my day, or I wish I could have been out there to finish those chances because I would definitely put them away, whereas these guys that play today, they blew them.
That seems like something that I could have heard of. Yes.
Well, I have never heard a coach be like, man, I would love to have played. And publicly, I can't recall something like that. I can't recall something like that.
But I mean, he said it publicly, but I'm sure every other coach that was former player thought about it.
Sure, but there's a difference between private talks with your coaching staff or private discussions or private thoughts and saying it out loud like, well, man, I would have... I mean, if I'm a defender, and yes, I know I've had a bad game, if I'm an Inter Miami player that was on that back line, I don't know that necessarily helps the
Phil
locker
was
room.
not a bad player, so I mean, he earned that right.
But he's a coach. He's leading this team now, Jose. He's not like...
He's not lying, though. He's not
I
lying.
don't think he's lying. I mean, listen... I just think it's the overall message is kind of like, it's a dig. Yes, criticize them for the performance, say they didn't play well, that's fine and dandy. But I think, that little dig, it's also kind of like, hey, I am better, or I would have been better than you guys out there. And like, I don't know, I think it's a little unnecessary. Just my opinion.
It could be, but I mean, just be better. Do a better job next time around, and he won't say it. Okay. That fixes the problem.
Well, let's talk about the biggest positive from this game with regards to individual performances, and that's Gonzalo Higuain. Again, he scores a hat-trick in this one, a first-half hat-trick. That's the second hat-trick in Inter Miami history after Leonardo Campana's triplete earlier this year against the New England Revolution, but it's the first one in Inter Miami's history that's been done in the first half. Again, free kick in the 23rd minute, a nice diagonal run to get on the end of a through ball from Alejandro Pozuelo in the 37th, and then a coolly slotted penalty kick low and to the right in first half stoppage time after I thought Inter Miami got a fortunate call there. Jean Mota was brought down or fell in the box on a corner kick. It went to VAR, and, well, Gonzalo Higuain scored the ensuing take. I will start by saying I was wrong. I thought Gonzalo Higuain was done. And I said that a few pods ago. I think I said it after the FC Dallas game. Although I did note that maybe the heat in Dallas played a part. But I did say that I thought Gonzalo Higuain was done. Since then, he has been on a tear. He has reminded us of the striker that he was in his heyday with some of these goals. Some of them have been spectacular golazos. He still has something to give. So I was wrong, and Gonzalo Higuain is in arguably the best form that he's been in since he joined Inter Miami in 2.5 seasons.
No way. He was a lot better last year.
During this recent stretch. I'm saying during this recent stretch. It's a small sample size. But arguably, I said arguably. He's scoring golazos and he looks a little bit better than he did at times last year, because last year, yes, he scored goals here and there, but there were a lot of games where he looked as poor as he did earlier this season for large stretches, where he didn't impact the run of play, he didn't influence the run of play, he would drop. Now we're seeing him more as, like you said before, the number 9 that we had been saying we wanted to see on this team. Not the Higuain that drops back and looks to pick up the ball. I think Alejandro Pozuelo 100% plays a big part in this, because now you have a more technical number 10, or you have a 10 out there, someone that can pull the string, someone that understands the game, that has the soft first touch, and that has the vision to find Higuain, and that allows Higuain, or that frees him from, I would say, the self-imposed responsibility of having to drop back and create. I think Pozuelo has been a huge part of why Higuain is now on this good run of form here. Higuain, by the way, was named to the MLS Team of the Week, and he was voted the MLS Player of the Week. So, good acknowledgement for the strong showing he had over the weekend. That said, again, Pozuelo's played a big part. Higuain has done his share as well with the finishes he's had. So right now, he's absolutely the starter. I don't think there's any doubt, and I'll give credit to you as well, because I was wrong. We talked about this earlier in the year. You did say at some point this year, and I'm paraphrasing, that Higuain would become an important player again once Campana, his form dipped. Well, we're here. Campana's form has dipped. Higuain's has risen. I think that is huge for Inter Miami to have any chance to even be in the playoff picture right now, to even be in the fight, because if Campana had a drop in form and Higuain had not raised his form simultaneously, Inter Miami's not scoring goals, Inter Miami's not getting points.
Yeah.
Inter Miami has benefited from the good fortune that when Campana went down with an injury, and when he was starting even before that to drop his form, Higuain has raised his significantly.
Yeah, and this is where I didn't expect Higuain to be as good as he has been, because my analysis of the situation was Higuain is going to be frustrated, and when the team, I knew the team will need him at some point, because it was impossible for Campana to play every single game, and I think this is the best part of the whole thing, that he stayed committed to the team, and yes, this is his job, and he's supposed to do that. Yes, I get all that, but he played at a high level, and sometimes players when you hurt them and when you don't do what they want, what they want you to do, sometimes they just change the attitude, and that didn't happen for Higuain. So I give him a lot of credit for that. He waited for his opportunity, which I'm assuming it was not easy for him to do, because that's something that never happened to him while he was playing at the highest level. So I give him a lot of credit, and yes, you're absolutely right. Can you imagine if Higuain was not available and Campana not available? I mean, where do you go?
Yeah, they would have been in big trouble. Big
yeah,
trouble.
I mean, and listen, they are still walking a thin line.
They're still walking a thin line, right? Because they're running out of time. The sand clock is quickly evaporating. So, how do you call that? I don't. I'm blanking on what it's called now. The little timers, the sand timers. Is that what it's called? I'm blanking on it. But yeah. Look, so I will say this to close out on this game as well. Actually, I'm going to say two things. Today I asked Phil Neville about Higuain and whether he's at the fittest he has been, because to me he looks a little bit more fit. And Phil Neville responded by saying he's the happiest he has seen Gonzalo Higuain in Phil Neville's time here in South Florida coaching the team. So that's of note. Interpret it how you want. The second thing I will say, there were also good moments, generally speaking, from the team. Yes, in the attack, but not even just in the attack, in the build-up. There was one sequence in the first half where Cincinnati starts pressing them, and Inter Miami passes the ball with 1 to 2 touch passing very quickly, very accurately around Cincinnati, and they get out of a tough spot, which was, for me, that's progress from what we've seen from Inter Miami in the past. That they were able to, under pressure, move the ball, get out of a jam, and get into the attack, progress the ball forward. Thought that was very, very good from the South Florida side in moments against FC Cincinnati. But okay, Jose, let's switch gears to this week's first game against the San Jose Earthquakes on Wednesday night. A team that's struggling in the Western Conference, a team that has undergone a coaching change this year. Matias Almeida is no longer the manager there. On paper, I think this is a winnable game. And I think Inter Miami will win this game. I said that on the pod at the end of last week, that I thought Inter Miami would tie FC Cincinnati, and I thought that they would beat the San Jose Earthquakes. I stick with that. Saturday proved to be just 1 point. I think that they get 3 on Wednesday. But on paper, this is a winnable game, right? I know Inter Miami has not been great on the road, but do you think this is a winnable game?
Good question. It's a good question, and I'm conflicted about it.
San Jose's in 13th place. While you think about it, San Jose's in 13th place in the Western Conference. They have 5 wins on the year, just 5. 5 wins, 9 losses, 8 draws. 5 wins, 8 draws, 9 losses. They have scored 36 goals, which is a healthy amount, but they've also given up 45, which is the most in the Western Conference. I'd have to check to see if it's the most in the league. So I think it's a winnable game. I know Inter Miami's form on the road hasn't been great, but I think if they play well enough, I think that they can take 3 points from this one. And then that would help offset Saturday's result. Even though it's a Western Conference opponent, even though there might be some rotation in the lineup, maybe, I think this is a winnable game, Jose.
I don't know. I don't see it. I think they can win it. But I don't think there's a big gap between the two teams.
San Jose, San Jose has the most goals given up in MLS. The most goals given up.
Yeah, but they can score as well. So, they have scored, you mentioned 36, and Miami,
in comparison, has 26 after this weekend's 4-goal explosion.
So they have 10 more goals than Miami. They're going to be playing at home. Miami's going to have to travel, which they did today, which is great. I don't know. I think they should go for it, right? They should go for it, but, in a well-organized manner. Not just be overly aggressive and try to win the game in the first 15 minutes. No, I don't think that's the way to go. But you can win this game. But it's not going to be as easy. I think maybe I'm thinking when you say winnable game that it's going to be, a game dominated by Inter Miami.
No. I didn't say it's going to be an easy game, but I think it's a game that they feel that they should win. Like, they should go into this game thinking, let's go for 3 points. Not let's go for 1, let's go for 3. On the weekend in Montreal, it's an Eastern Conference opponent. I'm not saying you play for the draw. You need the wins. But if you get a draw in Montreal, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I think this is a game, especially given where Montreal is in the table. I think this game, given the opponent, given the form that San Jose is in, I think this is the game. This is a game where you, especially after this weekend, you need to make up the points you dropped, and you gotta go for the win here. And I do think you need to be. I agree there has to be a balance, but I do think they should be aggressive. I don't think they should, cede possession to the San Jose Earthquakes and let them dictate the tempo. I think Inter Miami should look to boss possession, look to play, look to create again with a healthy balance, or as healthy of a balance as is possible with this group of players.
I don't know. I see a very complicated match for them. I see a very complicated match. And listen, San Jose, they have been struggling, but if you look back at the results, they are not they're not being outrun by anybody on in the league. I mean, it's a 2-2 draw against Real Salt Lake. Yeah, they dropped the game against Portland, but it's 2-1 and it's Portland. Maybe the Houston Dynamo game. Maybe you should win
San
against Houston
Jose,
Dynamo.
San Jose has won just one game out of their last five, and we're not including the friendly that they played against Celta Vigo. So in July,
And against the Fire, yes.
okay. So in July they won two games. But in their last five, they've only won once, and they've given up 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 goals in those 5 games.
Yeah, and I mean, Miami's not that far away from that. See,
Right.
that's the thing. I don't know. Maybe my expectations are not that high, but I just see both of these teams. They are very even to me. I don't see a big difference between the two teams. And listen, same thing for the Earthquakes as well. They really have to go for 3 points against Inter Miami. They might be thinking the exact same thing that you're thinking the other way around, right? This is a game that we should win. I mean, if we're gonna win a game in August, then this is our game.
Yeah, they're 8 points shy of the playoff spot in the Western Conference, the final playoff spot in the Western Conference. Bit of an uphill challenge.
The Western Conference is the Western Conference.
The Western Conference is tougher of the two, for sure, 100%. But look, San Jose only has 5 wins, and yes, they play in the Western Conference. But I think this is a winnable game. I said it last week. I said Inter Miami in this 3-game and 8-day stretch. I said they would get 4 points, and I said a draw at home, win in San Jose, and a loss in Montreal. Andrea said 4 points as well, but she said a win against Cincinnati. I forget if she said a draw against San Jose or if the draw was against Montreal, but she said 4 points as well. Here's a question for you. San Jose has some dangerous pieces. Christian Espinosa, the right winger, is one of those very dangerous pieces. He's quick, has a nose for goal. Probably not the most lethal goal scorer, but he can score goals from that right flank. Do you think we see Christopher McVeigh at left back again against Christian Espinosa, or does Phil Neville, after this weekend, after seeing Ryan Saylor struggle, do you think maybe Christopher McVeigh slots into the middle and someone like Kieran Gibbs starts out on the left to go up against a speedy Argentine attacker like Christian Espinosa?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think, Kieran Gibbs not being available over the weekend was surprising to me.
It was a coach's decision. That's what we were told by a team spokesperson. It's a coach's decision.
I honestly thought he was injured again, because obviously that's something that has happened to him frequently since he arrived. But I think it should be an ideal scenario for Kieran to start against the Earthquakes. Maybe you don't give him back-to-back starts and McVeigh comes back into the picture against Montreal. But I think this is a good opportunity for him. I think in the long run, Inter Miami is going to need Kieran Gibbs, just like they did before Gonzalo Higuain. I think he needs to be part of the picture a lot more often than what we saw in the first half of the season. They're gonna need him. I think also, Franco, there's one more element that maybe, sometimes we think a lot about what goes on with Inter Miami, what we see here, but I'm sure the scouting report for Inter Miami has Christopher McVeigh as a big part of it, because he's the one player defensively playing out of position.
Right.
And so they're going to attack him.
And he doesn't have an abundance of speed.
Right. I mean, he gives a lot of room to the right back, to the right winger, because they know that McVeigh is not going to put a lot of pressure on them. He's going to stay back a lot.
Right.
And whenever he steps up, it's going to be tough for him to go to run back.
Right.
So he's part of the scouting report. If you bring Kieran Gibbs in, then things might change a little bit. Although, again, Kieran Gibbs with plenty of injuries, you also need to be careful with him.
Kieran Gibbs started against New York City FC, the last road game that Inter Miami had. I, I, I think it's possible that he starts here against the Earthquakes, but I think we're going to see Christopher McVey at left back again.
Maybe the weather situation helps him a lot as well. What's the weather going to be like in California?
Well, I'd have to check with the meteorologist, Miami Total Futbol Radio's meteorologist, because I don't know right now. But I just think Christopher McVey will start again at left back, given that Phil Neville prides himself on defending Christopher McVey's strength, although, and again, in this game, he was closer to the Avenue McVey that Andrea criticizes him for being. More often than not, he had some trouble there against FC Cincinnati. But I think I think defending overall this season, he has been solid there. Solid, not sensational, not spectacular, but solid and serviceable. And I think Phil Neville will stick with him at left back because he'll trust that McVey can do a good enough job defensively. Whereas with Gibbs, maybe he can, maybe he can't. But I just haven't seen Gibbs earn that trust from Phil Neville this year due to injuries, due to form, whatever it is. I do think we'll see McVey at left back. That just raises the question as to what happens at center back. Does he bring in Ame Mabika, or does he just chalk that one or this game to a one-off and keep Ryan Saylor in there? Does he switch to a back five? These are questions that I'm sure are going through or have already gone through Phil Neville's head in the lead up to this game. But I think there could be changes. I think we'll see McVey at left back. Especially, listen, when you hear Phil Neville say, and something we didn't touch on in his post-game remarks, when he was expressing his frustration and his anger with the performance defensively, and he says, we defended like little boys, I think there's going to be some changes there somewhere. I just don't think it'll be McVey. Jose, very quickly, one final thing. Today we were both at practice. We saw a very light-hearted start to the training session from Inter Miami. They played foot tennis, and there were some very, very funny moments as the team competed. I don't know if that was the coaching staff's idea to try to keep the group lighthearted, to keep the group jovial and in a good place after Saturday's very frustrating result. But what'd you think? Just what are your thoughts on what we saw from training on Monday?
Oh, man, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to watch. I think it was not only relaxing for the players, but for the media as well. I really enjoyed it.
I did too. Gonzalo Higuain had me rolling. Oh my goodness! And for some listeners that just want to hear about the games and our analysis here, we'll share this because we're just soccer junkies, we're soccer nerds. But this is like type of insight that you're probably not going to get many places elsewhere. And I fully, like you, Jose, and I'm sorry to interject there, but I fully enjoyed Gonzalo Higuain and how he competes. Like, he takes it to heart, like, for real. But it was just so funny, man. And I'll share a couple of anecdotes about him here, but I'll let you finish your thought.
No, it was great. It was great listening to the guys as well. The way they interact with them the way they interact. It was just a lot of fun. A couple of things, that got to me. When Gonzalo gets eliminated, he just kicks the ball to the net. Everybody gets a laugh. He was just very, just very enthusiastic about it. So it was a lot of fun. And he calls Taylor Roberto. They do call Gregorio as well for the Spanish-speaking people.
What were they calling McVey? They were calling it. They were giving him like a weird pronunciation that I thought was funny.
Yes,
Macavie, something like that.
Yeah, it's all Gonzalo. Gonzalo was having a lot of fun this morning, and actually I have a clip of the final, which do you remember who it was? It was Campana.
It was Campana and Jean Mota against Robert Taylor, and I think Christopher McVey.
And McVey.
Yeah.
Yes, and McVey. Yeah, it's Taylor, I think, who ends up missing the last point, and so.
Look, yes. I really wish, and I was recording for like a minute and a half of the competition, because the whole team was playing at first, and they're in pairs of twos, and you get eliminated by the mess ups, right? Like if you mess up, if you fault on a point, or you hit it out of the field or into the net, you're out. So the whole team started in this game, and they moved in and out. And there was one moment where George Acosta, and I forgot who was with George Acosta. I'd have to go watch the film. I have it on my phone. You know, they hit the ball to Gonzalo Higuain, who was teammates with Victor Ulloa. And the ball ends up going almost out of the field, out of the little marked space. And Gonzalo Higuain has to stretch to get it. And Acosta was actually like around that area, and Gonzalo Higuain turns to him and he's like, "Get the hell," like in Spanish. He's like, "Get out of the way." and I'm being polite in how he said it. He was like, "La blank de tu hermana," like get out of there. Yeah. And I just had a good laugh at that. You know, obviously that just shows how competitive he is, and obviously that's probably because he's played at the highest levels of the game, and that's just his day-to-day behavior that he's adopted or had to reach those elite levels. The one that you just touched on, though, man, I had just stopped recording when that happened, when his team got eliminated, because the ball comes into Victor Ulloa, to Gonzalo Higuain, and he lays it off to Victor Ulloa. Ulloa heads it back to Higuain close to the net. Higuain tried to do a delicate touch over the net to try to like just have the ball bounce twice without the other team being able to get to it. And in doing so, he miscalculated the space. So I'm laughing.
It should have been an easy one for him.
Oh, it was. He brings it down immaculately from the air. He brings it, but instead of getting it over the net, he miscalculated the space, and he gets it into the net. Thus, the ball hitting the ground for the second time on his and Victor Ulloa's side, and thus eliminating them from the competition. What he did afterwards was facepalm, say another expletive as he looked up into the sky, and then he looked at the ball that was just sitting there in front of him, right next to the net, and he smashed it with all his fury, knocking the net over, and everyone on the team had a good laugh. Us on the media side, I think we also had a very good chuckle.
Oh, yes. Oh, man. I was laughing.
Yeah,
I was laughing so hard. That was so funny. So funny. It was just great. It was just great. I guess to put it in tennis terms, it would be like, you know, Roger or Rafa missing like an easy shot for them, an easy shot.
Well, he tried to get cute though. He tried to get cute. That's why, because he tried to be clever about it. Instead of hitting it, you know, like direct response, he wanted to just do.
He wanted to do like a drop shot.
Right. Exactly.
Like that.
Right. So that they can't. Right. So they can't get to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The final point's also funny though. The final point, and that there is video of that on Jose's Twitter. That is, Jose, give the people your Twitter handle. It's at JARM21, right?
21, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't want you to accuse me of not knowing your Twitter handle as well. I did know it. I just wanted to let you tell the people what it is. So it's at JARM21. Go look at it there. But the final point is also hilarious because Robert Taylor, I think, is the one that stretches to try to save it and hit it over the net. And in doing so, he collides on the edge of it and falls over, and it's a whole thing. It's funny. A good moment, a good lighthearted start to the training session for Inter Miami before they left for the West Coast. So maybe that'll help them in their search for 3 points on Wednesday night. It's a late one, by the way, so get your snacks ready or get your DVRs ready because it starts at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Very late kickoff. The game will be done after midnight. So, reminder for that. Okay, Jose, let's leave it there. We'll come back for the Q&A session and our final thoughts after this. Okay, guys, Q&A time. We will answer a couple of questions here. Let's start with one from Tank721, who would be your ideal starting 11 for Wednesday and what formation would they play in? So we gently touched on this subject in the first segment, but now we have to go into a little more detail, a little more depth. Jose, give me your starting 11 and in what formation?
I wouldn't change. I wouldn't change the formation. I would just. I'll play the 4-2-3-1.
So you would change the formation.
I guess I would change it. Yes, I would change it. I would change it a little bit. So I would start Marsman, Yetling, Lowe, McVeigh, and Gibbs. In the middle, Mota and Gregory. Taylor, Pozuelo in the middle, and I guess ideally I would go with Adi Lassiter, but I don't know if he's ready to play the full 90. So, but yeah, I would go with Lassiter. Maybe I would switch them up. Taylor on the right and Lassiter on the left, and Higuain at the top. That would be my lineup.
What would I do? I'm not saying what I think Phil Neville does. I would say what I would do.
I think that's the question.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So I'm just making sure. I would go Drake Callender. I would go back four of DeAndre Yedlin, Damian Lowe, Christopher McVeigh at center back, and Kieran Gibbs at left back. That's what I would do. The midfield I would go with. I think it's pretty straightforward. Gregory, Mota, Pozuelo up top. Higuain flanked by. This is where it's interesting. Definitely Taylor. I'm not huge on Vasilev, but
is Coco ready though?
I don't think.
By the way, it will be 75 degrees.
Meteorologist Jose with the weather.
Yeah, just so you know, because I mean, Coco, that's an advantage without a doubt for him, because I mean, weather situation with the humidity here, it's complicated for Coco, but I think 75 degrees he can handle.
I don't think he's ready though for a start yet.
How about Emerson? Is this the time for him to get finally a start?
I mean, he did have a start recently, but you know what? Yeah, fine. There you go. I don't think Phil Neville would do that because again, Emerson Rodriguez still apparently learning the defensive side of the game. Obviously, it's not his strength nor his forte. So after a game like this week where they gave up 4 goals, I don't think Phil Neville will do that, but I would do that. There you go. All right. Emerson Rodriguez instead of Indiana Vasilev. That would be my starting, well, one of my starting wingers. Robert Taylor, the other one. Okay, next question. Oh, and I would go 4-3-3. Same formation. Next question comes from Spontaneous Phil. How do we keep all our dangerous offensive pieces in the game and shore up the defense? Because that was the worst defensive shape and weakest backline performance I've seen from this team all year. So we've touched on that. Again, generally speaking, kind of broadly, like how do they go about finding the balance? I guess is the question. That's the tricky part. Jose, is there a way for Inter Miami to find that balance? I mean, obviously there's a way to find it a little bit better than giving up 4 goals and in a game where you score 4, but is there a way for this team to actually be a balanced group, or do you think this team, given its flaws, will be imbalanced one way or the other?
No, well, I think what I would do is that, you know, I would just help DeAndre Yedlin understand a little bit that, yes, we need you to be attacking minded at times. We need you to move forward, but only go when you really have to go, when you see an opening. But, you know, I think the up and down situation from Yedlin at times creates a little bit of trouble for the rest of the back line. And as soon as Yedlin moves up, and then you have to move Low to the right, you have to move Saylor to the center, and then McVeigh is somewhere in between. So I would say the back line needs to be a little bit more static, think about defense, and maybe ask a little bit more from Gregory and Mota. Help a little bit more in the build-up so that Yedlin, he can only go as an element of surprise and not constantly going up the field, and creating yes, opportunities offensively, but openings as well for the opponent defensively. So that's the one thing that maybe I would try it and see if it works. Um, I listen. We don't have an answer to this until we see it on the field and we go like, oh yes, that's the way to go. Because this is something that you work on during the week in training, and as much as we would have wanted to stay this morning for the whole thing, we can only watch the foot tennis tournament, and that's about it. So I mean, we get ideas from what we see on the field, but overall, this is something that it's worked obviously in training sessions.
And look, normally we don't get to see the fun foot tennis tournament. Normally we see them just warm up, jog around, maybe do some passing drills. We normally don't get the foot tennis, which is why I wanted to talk about it on the show, because it was something different, something we haven't seen from the team, at least when we've been in the media availabilities or the media availability portion of training. But anyway, as for the question, what do I think they can do? Look, I think there's two things. I think there's two things that I would bring up that is possible to maybe help address the imbalance. Drop the line a little bit, not play such a high line. That does not mean play a deep line and play in a shell and look to counterattack, but I think maybe dropping the line a little bit from where Inter Miami has been to try to limit the spaces that are in behind, I think that could help. I think that's one potential solution. Another one, and I think this one is a little bit more straightforward, having Gregory be the defensive midfielder again. Just him being the pure defensive midfielder where Jean Mota plays ahead of him, and Jean Mota doesn't have to do as much defending. Still has to defend, still has to do his part, but not as much. Because we've seen Jean Mota play as a deep-lying playmaker. He's playing the six, he's playing in the position or in the spaces that a defensive midfielder would play in, but he's being tasked with moving the ball forward, not necessarily breaking things up. But inevitably, because of where he is, the positions he's taking up, he's being asked to defend at times, and that's not his forte. Look at the third goal. He tries to challenge for the ball. He tries to win a tackle. He cannot. The ball pops out back to Barriel, and Barriel hits the cross that is pushed home by Vasquez. So I think getting Gregory back to being the pit bull terrier in the center of the park with a little bit more license to roam about, I think, and try to break things up, I think that could potentially help. That would probably take something away from the attack, probably, as would dropping the line a little bit, but I think maybe that helps give you a better balance. That's just two things that I think could be solutions. Could be. All right, last one, Jose, comes from Alante Herons. Lionesses get rid of Neville and win a trophy. Just saying. I mean, that's not wrong.
That's like, right?
It's more of a comment than a question, but it was submitted in the Q&A session, so I'll read that one as well. It's not wrong. It's not wrong. And Phil Neville did touch on today that he was asked about it by yourself, actually, and he talked about how emotionally invested he was in the final. England beat Germany in the women's Euro final on Sunday, 2-1 in extra time. So he said
watched the game with Mr. Beckham.
He watched the game with David Beckham. He said they were very enthused and happy, obviously, to see England win the trophy. So, with regards to the comments, I mean, it's not factually wrong.
No, but I mean, who knows? I guess it's he must have been part of it at some point. I mean, development of players, and I don't know. Maybe is Diego Alonso part of Inter Miami still, or is this a situation where Inter Miami goes to the playoffs and no credit goes to Diego Alonso?
No, Diego Alonso wouldn't get credit at this point. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that reminds me of like Sergio Marcarian, who was his Uruguayan coach, and he coached Peru from, I think, 2011 to 2014. They didn't make the World Cup there. Obviously, there was some carryover in the transition phase to the next coach was Ricardo Gareca, and Peru made it to the World Cup in 2018. Marcarian afterwards came out and said, that he laid the foundation for it, and he tried to take some credit, which didn't really go over well with some people in Peru. I'm not saying that's the case here with Phil Neville, but I think Phil Neville's far enough removed now where I don't think in England they're like, all right, this Phil Neville played a part in this team winning the Euro final. But I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm not in England, so not sure. Okay, but that does it for the Q&A session. Jose, we will give our final thoughts, and we'll wrap up the show after that. I will start with mine, and then I'm going to ask you to answer a question from last week as your final thought. And I don't want to rebuttal because I've already said my thoughts on it. But anyway,
I had a final thought.
Okay, well, you can add to that then. I will start with my final thought saying that Jairo Quinteros is... The rumors are true. It looks like Inter Miami is looking for a solution to move him on for the rest of this season at least, because clearly he's not getting a lot of playing time. He played with Inter Miami too over the weekend. He started for them. There's been rumors about him maybe going to Real Zaragoza. He talked to me earlier this year, if not this summer, about not being the happiest about not getting starts and not playing consistently on the first team. Phil Neville today was asked about that, and Phil Neville confirmed that they're looking for options for him so he can go get
Jose
playing
was
time.
asking really good questions this morning.
Who was?
Jose was asking very, very good questions.
I know, it was a rare sight. I couldn't believe it. Jairo Quinteros, he might not be long for Inter Miami, at least for the rest of this year, if they can figure something out for his future. So it has been confirmed by Phil Neville that Inter Miami is looking to potentially move him just to help him out with his development this year. So keep an eye out on that. Jose, the final thought, one of your two final thoughts, I will ask you to say, because one of the questions we got last week was about who you think is a better prospect, based on something you said 2 pods ago, Noah Allen or Harvey Neville. The floor is yours. Andrea, by the way, she said Harvey Neville last week. I said Noah Allen. We both said our reasons why. By the way, in the aftermath of that, Noah Allen got an assist this past weekend for the second team.
Harvey, without a doubt. I mean, by a mile or two, maybe 3, 4, or 5, and I can keep going. Yes, Harvey is. Listen, I think he has an advantage though, and that's where I have problems comparing the two guys, because I think Noah Allen, yes, things are getting better here, but I think coaches are a lot better at the higher level, and I think Harvey he has an advantage. He's older as well, is he? Like 2 years older than Noah.
So that's the issue. I said I wouldn't rebuttal, but that's the issue I take with the argument you're making, because the question isn't who's the better player right now. The question is who's the better prospect, and that means projecting for the future.
Yes, but I mean we're talking in terms of MLS, right? I mean, who's
Just
the better prospect?
Career in general, career. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be MLS. It could be MLS. It could be Europe. It could be wherever you see their wherever you think their futures will take them.
Ah, okay. Then that changes things a little bit, because I do believe that Noah Allen he has a lot of potential. I think he needs to change positions. He's not a left back. He needs to move up the field a little bit more, and then things can change for him. It depends. At what point in his career he decides to make that move, and if he's on the right team that would allow that to happen. That's the first thing. Harvey, on the other hand, I think he's better prepared right now, and I would expect Harvey to be an Inter Miami player for years to come. I don't know if Harvey's going to go back to Valencia or any other place in Europe, just because he had an opportunity and he was not successful there early on, but he was very early on in his career. So I would say for Inter Miami, thinking about Inter Miami.
No, not about Inter Miami. Just for them and their careers. Who's the better prospect?
It's tight. It's tight because...
No, you're not so sure now, huh? Not so sure.
Yeah, you got me thinking, because Noah Allen, I don't know if he's going to make that move. I don't think he's not a left back. I don't see it. See it.
as a left back. So, but if he doesn't make that move, then Harvey is ahead again. You see?
Okay. I said I wouldn't rebuttal, and I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best not to rebuttal. So you're saying Harvey. I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm leaning to Harvey. Okay. I'm leaning to Harvey until Noah Allen makes the move and changes position.
So you have essentially regurgitated or repeated what Andrea said last week, because she also has said she does not think he's a left back. She thinks he's a left midfielder or a left wide player further up the field. I think he's a left back. I think he absolutely has to shore up some things in his game defensively, 100%. But I will repeat, I think he is the better prospect because I think he has more upside and more potential. Now, that does not guarantee, and I'm not saying here on, what is today, August 1st, of 2022, that Noah Allen's going to be a superstar left back that plays for Real Madrid and Barcelona in his career. I'm not saying that at all, but from what I've seen from both of them to this point, I think Noah Allen has more upside. He's better with the ball at his feet. He's got more attacking ideas, as you've noted. This past weekend, like I said, he got an assist. I think he has, and I think he's a little bit more athletically gifted in terms of speed. Harvey Neville doesn't have a whole lot of speed. I won't say he's the slowest player, but I don't think he's a whole lot of speed. He definitely has that foundation that you touched on and talked about in terms of the European foundation, and tactically he might be further ahead, but he is also 2 years older. When you see him get forward, though, does he make that much of an impact? Is he that great of a defender? I don't see as many promising points with Harvey Neville as I do with Noah Allen, and Harvey Neville's older. So based on the question of prospect, I'm going Noah Allen, who, by the way, is also, as I will reiterate from last week, getting international exposure by playing for the under-20 U.S. men's national team. He
was not a starter there, though.
Right. He was a part-time starter. He started some games, didn't start in the other games. He also, he will be in the fight over the next few years to play at the Olympics and play at the World Cup, at the under-20 World Cup. So those are experiences that Harvey Neville is not getting and he will not have for his development. So that's not to say that Harvey Neville is going to be a poor player or a bad player. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying prospect-wise, out of the two, I think Noah Allen is the better prospect. But anyway, okay, now your actual final thought, and then we'll wrap up the show.
Since I was not here the last pod, I need to mention Sacramento Republic. Yeah, baby. USL Championship.
This is the same show. This is the same ending to the show we had last week.
In the USA Open Cup final. And this is the moment for Inter Miami fans to start learning about Sacramento Republic. Obviously, they will be facing Orlando City. And I'm assuming Inter Miami fans, they do not want to see Orlando City win the US Open Cup and go to the Champions League. So this is your time to get your gear ready. Drive 3 hours for 30 minutes, just like Franco does, on his way to Orlando. And cheer on Sacramento Republic. I just can't wait to see USL Championship on the CONCACAF Champions League. That's why I want Sacramento Republic to win. I want to see that happen. I want to see U.S. soccer allowed a USL Championship team play in an international competition. I just want to see what happens. So that's my final thought.
Okay. All right. I mean, it's a lot of the same that we heard from Andrea last week. I feel like you two are 100% married and talk about soccer all day, every day, because a lot of your thoughts are the same. Except when you guys are on the show and we start opining about different things, then you guys go at each other like cats and dogs, which I enjoy. But you know, when you guys are separated, it's like you're unified even more so because you guys say a lot of the same things separately.
We talk about soccer all the time. We can make up what we do here, but I don't think that would be that interesting.
Okay, well, that does it for this first show of the week. We'll be back again later in the week to recap the match against the San Jose Earthquakes and preview the following match against CF Montreal. So, for Jose Armando, a.k.a. Cinco, a.k.a. Island Jose, a.k.a. Meteorologist Jose, I am Franco Panizo. You have been listening to Miami Total Futbol Radio.